I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 29th, 2015. 4 people thought to be connected to a video taken at a wedding that celebrated the deadly Duma attack were arrested today. Israel police reportedly detained the 4, which include the groom, for their alleged involvement in the video that was aired last week on Israel's Channel 10, which shows Jewish right-wing extremists at a wedding in the West Bank celebrating the July 31st firebombing attack that killed 3 members of a Palestinian family. The images in the video received widespread condemnation from across the political spectrum in Israel, including from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who called the video images shocking. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed a ceremony today for the Mossad, Israel's national intelligence agency, where he restated Israel's commitment to its security and to fight terror and violence in a changing world. Netanyahu said, because of the rise of extremist Islam, we find ourselves in a world war against 2 large factions of extremist Islam, which spread across the globe, referring to Sunni extremist groups such as ISIS and Shiite extremist groups like Hezbollah. The Prime Minister said the 2 threats were linked and it was Israel's obligation to deal with them. And the Times of Israel reports that the Prime Minister's office today responded to reports regarding his stance on the use of Torah scrolls by women at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Israeli radio Galei Tzahal reported this week that Netanyahu had promised the ultra-Orthodox party heads that there would be no change of the status quo at the Kotel and that women would not read Torah there. This after last month at the General Assembly of the Jewish Federations of North America in Washington, the Prime Minister suggested that he would fight for unity and inclusion at the holy site. He had said, quote, "I will always ensure that all Jews can feel at home in Israel, Reform Jews, Conservative Jews, Orthodox Jews, all Jews." Also saying, quote, "I'm also hopeful we will soon conclude a long overdue understanding that will ensure that the Kotel will be a source of unity for our people and not a point of division." Statements which gave the Women of the Wall, the group that fights for equal rights for women to pray at the Kotel, hope that things would change at the holy site. In response to the radio report that seemed to reject that, the group said this morning that they would continue to read Torah from the wall even if they had to hide their Torah scroll and smuggle it in. Women of the Wall wrote, "It is our hope that Netanyahu will not ban women from reading Torah. However, if he does bend to the pressure of the Haredi parties, Women of the Wall will continue to read Torah in the women's section of the Kotel." The statement later today from the Prime Minister's office said that he is committed to both finding a solution and upholding the status quo. The statement said the Prime Minister is committed to preserving the status quo at the Western Wall. The Prime Minister is also committed to the process led by the Cabinet Secretary to formulate an agreed-upon plan for prayer at the Western Wall for all the streams of Judaism. France announced this week that it will make records of the Vichy regime available to the public, something that could shed light on France's collaboration with the Nazis during the Holocaust. The Germans set up the French collaborationist government in the city of Vichy during World War II. It revoked the citizenship of French Jews and cooperated with the Germans in deporting French Jews to concentration camps. The police and legal archives from the regime had been classified and only had been available to researchers who had received special permission, and even then were still very much restricted. They will now be opened in their entirety to the general public. The Jerusalem Post cites Dr. Robert Williams, who is chair of the Archival Access Group at the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, who said that the increased availability of such documents will inspire further research into the nature of collaboration during the Holocaust and hopefully lead to greater understanding and appreciation of the ways by which the Holocaust and related forms of persecution continue to resonate in the present. The Post also cited Nazi hunter and head of the Simon Wiesenthal Center's Jerusalem office, Ephraim Zuroff, who said that he welcomed the move, however late. Zuroff said it is a shame that the Vichy files are only finally being open to the public at this late date. at a time when the potential for prosecuting individuals hereto unknown who were responsible for the deportation of Jews to the death camps is negligible. And staying with the Wiesenthal Center, it released its annual list of the 10 worst outbreaks of anti-Semitic and anti-Israel incidents around the world for 2015. Topping the list, what the center said was the hatred of Jews from within the family that helped incubate the hate that radicalized the San Bernardino, California terrorist who murdered 14 people earlier this month. The list also includes the European Union's labeling of Israeli products made over the Green Line and the BDS, Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, which seeks to delegitimize the state of Israel, as well as including the P5+1 nuclear deal, which it said has not diminished Iranian threats against the Jewish state. The center, in its introduction to the annual list, stated that, quote, in 2015, a year of raging anti-Semitism and extreme anti-Israelism, it was difficult to limit the list to top 10, saying that those selected were merely a representative of the, quote, growing menace that threatens the Jewish people and democratic values. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Tuesday, December the 29th. At 7 o'clock, David Makovsky of the Washington Institute, Elon Goldenberg of the Center for a New American Security, and Laura Blumenfeld from the U.S. State Department, who all worked on Secretary of State John Kerry's peace initiative, talk about why it did not work and look at where peace prospects stand now with Ron Campius of JTA from the Jewish Federation of North America's General Assembly. Then at 8, Israeli author Yossi Klein Halevi looks at safety versus civil rights. And at 9, Mark Golub sits down with outgoing CEO of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, Rabbi Steve Guto. And coming up at 6:30 tonight, a look at Islam and jihadism with Charles Small from ISGAP on In the News. And that's the JBS News Update for Tuesday, December the 29th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.